Hi everyone, it's Matthew Donovan here, and I have the March update for my 2018 resolutions. Now, March was a phenomenal month, and I'll get to the reason for that in just a moment, but let's start where we always start with languages. Part of the reason March was great was because I spent a week and a half in Spain competing in a case competition there, and as a result, I was actually able to use some of the language that I've been learning for the past, say, 12 weeks. I really enjoyed that. Now the competition was in English. A lot of the people there spoke English. The entire competition, all the people relating to the competition spoke in English. Um, and some of the other people we interact with, people at restaurants and that type of thing, were speaking in English. But I did try to do at least a little bit of Spanish speaking with them. And as the week actually progressed, and I would mention to some of the people who were helping out at the competition that I spoke a little bit of Spanish, or I understood a little bit of Spanish. They were more than willing to speak with me in Spanish, and I think that's really something that I wasn't necessarily expecting, was how willing they would be to just speak a little bit in Spanish and obviously have a more basic conversation, but just that willingness to speak with me in the language was definitely something that I really enjoyed. As I said, I've been putting this time in to learn the language, and I'm not fluent by any means, but I definitely can, hold my own in a conversation. And what I would find is that at the bare minimum, I basically said, you know what, when I'm going to restaurants, when I'm ordering food, when I'm doing the basic things where it would be expected that I would speak Spanish, I will speak Spanish. So as a result, it was basically a lot of restaurants where I would order in Spanish, let them know I was allergic to peanuts and nuts in Spanish, that type of thing. If we needed more water or more bread or the bill, I would ask for that in Spanish. It was myself and one of the other team members speaks fluent Spanish, so it was she had the best level Spanish, then I had a passable level, and then the two other people on our team, as well as our faculty advisor, don't speak any Spanish at all. So I was able to, take that sort of initiative to speak some Spanish and converse with the locals as well as I could in their native language. And as I said, it was really a great experience, a good opportunity. I was also hoping to be able to spend some time in Frankfurt. We had a 2-hour stopover in Frankfurt on our flight back. I was hoping to be able to get off the plane, talk to some of the people just who own the stores there in German, and practice my German a little bit. That didn't end up happening. We were delayed. Our flight out of Madrid was delayed by about an hour and a half sitting on the tarmac. So by the time we landed in Frankfurt, we had to run from one end of the terminal to the other, and barely made it onto our flights on time. My luggage made it. No one else's luggage made it, but we all made it onto the flights. But as a result, we didn't have that time, or I didn't have that time at Frankfurt to speak. All I was really able to do was, just a very basic conversation with the flight attendant, to ask for a glass of water and to say thank you as we were leaving the plane. I didn't want to do too much else. It was they were busy running around giving people water and helping them out. As I said, we were delayed for about an hour and a half, and it was only about an hour and a half flight to get from Madrid to Frankfurt, so passengers were a little upset. It was also an early flight. It left Madrid at 6 in the morning, or we're supposed to leave at 6 in the morning, didn't leave till 7:30. But as I said, that was a little bit disappointing, not being able to use as much German, or really any German, but I was able to use the Spanish that I've been working on, at least to a little bit, and that was great. And the other thing is, yes, of course, we all do have a tendency to tell people how good their language skills are, as long as they're making an effort. Say, oh, you speak English really well, congrats. Oh, no, we can't tell that you're not a native speaker, that type of thing. We're very generous typically when people are making an effort to speak the language. And the people in Spain were definitely the same. They, were saying that my Spanish was quite good, and I had a good level of understanding, especially having only been studying it for 12 weeks. So definitely that was, great to hear, and definitely a great motivator. But really the biggest thing was just going to a different country where the language spoken is not English. That's not something I've been able to do. Really, I did spend some time back when I was younger. We used to go to Cuba for vacation, and they do speak Spanish there, but I just wasn't old enough to really internalize and understand, and I also wasn't at the stage of my life where I am now, with this focus on languages and communicating with people. So it definitely was an interesting experience and a very great experience that I really enjoyed, to be able to go over there and speak some Spanish and understand them, and just learn that we're not the center of the universe speaking English. Yes, a lot of people do speak English, but they're learning English on our behalf, and a lot of people are willing to do that. But why are we not willing to make that effort to learn other languages and communicate with people we otherwise wouldn't be able to communicate with? So that was definitely a great end to my learning Spanish. Now that I'm back, the goal as it's written is to focus on Italian, but I think I'm going to pull back and work on a little bit more German. I'm trying to improve that and get that up to a slightly higher level. It's not the first language that I studied. I studied French in schools, but German is definitely the language I'm most passionate about and most dedicated and determined to learn. So I do want to spend a bit of time and improve that, get that to an even better level. I also will need to look at or I'm in the process of looking at, but really need to confirm some details, or where exactly in the Waterloo region am I able to go and practice German. There is a large German population here, so it seems silly that I'm not practicing with some people here and meeting some great people as well. My neighbors, I'm sure, within the bigger Waterloo region. So that's the goal going forward, is probably switch to German, or I will switch to German. Definitely keep Italian and Hebrew on the back burners. Hebrew is when I studied mostly the script, but I did do a little bit of reading once I got the script sort of under control. Polish is not one that I've studied really. It's similar to Czech, but Czech is not anywhere near one of my better languages. So Polish I may pull back for right now. The only reason Polish had even come up was I was talking with a couple people at Laurier who spoke Polish, and we have a little bit in common with my speaking Czech and they're speaking Polish, but definitely not a lot, considering they are native speakers of Polish. I'm barely a passable speaker of Czech, and there's not that similar vocabulary. There is a little bit, and that's really what started that starting point was, oh, you speak this language? I'm interested in learning languages. Why don't I learn your language? And I find that's typically how it goes with languages, and something I experienced, or I'm sure I would experience if I were to spend more time in Europe. In Spain, they all spoke Spanish, and I was speaking Spanish, but I'm sure if I was in the Netherlands, for example, and they were speaking Dutch, of which there were actually a couple of Dutch speakers at the competition because there was a team from the Netherlands, just hearing them speak definitely motivates me to say, let's learn that language and be able to understand what they're saying. So a good update in terms of the language front. As I said, I'm very excited to have been able to spend that time speaking Spanish. It was definitely a great end, and it's not the final end, but definitely a great end to the 12-week journey I put myself through to really learn the language before going to the country. A little bit disappointing with German, but you know what, it was other than that, it was a phenomenal week. So I don't want to end it on a low note by saying I wasn't able to speak some German when I do have access to all the native speakers on italki to speak as much as I'd like. So very happy, very pleased with how languages occurred during March. The next goal is reading more. I did bring a book to Spain, hoping to potentially read it on the plane or the train, or if I had some downtime. Well, I didn't have any downtime, so I didn't read it then. And I was busy. I was marking some assignments that I had on the plane and on the train. And at the end of the day, on the way back, I was tired. I said, it's been a long week. It's time to rest. So I didn't do any reading. Now that Spain is behind me, I should have a lot more time, so definitely looking to integrate that. And I'm just looking around me here. I have a ridiculous amount of books here. I've got some John Grisham if I want to read fiction. I have a lot of nonfiction books, a lot of authors. I've got the books by Tim Ferriss. I've got another bunch of John Grisham books. There's a lot of things that I could be reading. It's really just that matter of finding a time, starting to read. What I used to do last year for a bit of time was reading a chapter or two every night. I don't know if that's what I want to do, or if I want to say, you know what, let's just block out 2 or 3 chunks or 2 or 3 hours chunks on Saturdays or Sundays and sit down and just read a book from start to finish. That might be what I end up doing, but who knows, I may also be underestimating the amount of time it takes to read these books. So no update on the book front in terms of March. Also no update on the the exercise front, the only small bit of information that I do have there is our water polo team. I mentioned in the last video I'm playing water polo this season. It is a good workout every Sunday. We took 2 weeks off in between the end of our regular season and the start of playoffs in March. It actually happened to coincide right with my trip to Spain, so that was fantastic. I would have missed the one game and been incredibly jet lagged for the second, but they were both canceled and postponed, so no issues at all there. We did end up winning actually our championship game for the water polo finals in the last week in March. That's a great way to end the season. As I said though in the last video, it's not where I want to be in terms of exercise. I'm definitely taking what I can get, but the goal is to do a little bit more running and definitely some swimming as well. Hopefully I can fit that into my schedule over the summer. We're going to see what that schedule looks like. It seems to be loaded right now more towards the mornings of classes, and then maybe I'll do a little bit of swimming at noon, and then by 1 o'clock I'll be done classes. I'll have been to the pool, come home, shower, and then get a little bit of work done or figure out whatever I'm doing in the evening. So hopefully exercise is something that I can fit in the time for, even in April. Really, as I said, it's about available time. And absolutely, I don't believe in the mindset of saying, oh, I'm too busy, because busy is a choice, and I'm definitely choosing to be busy and to keep myself busy. But as a result, I do need to be aware that in order to be able to go to Spain and take part in these competitions and to be able to be a teaching assistant and volunteer on the emergency response team and do all of these things, that does mean that there's not as much time for the other things, so they will have to sit on the back burner, and right now that's what both reading and exercise have been doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Co-op, continue learning and remain valuable at Sun Life Financial. I'm still very excited and very happy with the progress during the month of March. On this front, I've been working on a new tool. Basically, I've been meeting with the key resources who would be using the tool, building the tool, troubleshooting the tool, doing probably 90% of the work when it comes to this tool, and very excited about that. It's a big project. We've basically, there's about 150, 200 people who are working as part of the team that I'm in at Sun Life. A good majority of them in Waterloo, but also some in Montreal and overseas in India and the Philippines. So all of these people are reporting to other managers and different managers, and they're having their allocation, what they're spending their time on, currently tracked in many different spreadsheets. There's, I believe, 5, 6, 7, 8 spreadsheets total, 7 or 8 spreadsheets total, and as I said, they're all disconnected. There also there become issues when people are working on projects for different people, that which spreadsheet are they kept in. So I've been working on consolidating all the spreadsheets so we have one big list online, editable by everyone, but customized so that when you go in, you only see the fields relevant to you on certain pages, and on other pages you see other things. So that's been a big project I've been working on. That's really been probably the biggest thing that I've been leading and working towards. I have also been doing some other things when it comes to Outlook migration. The whole company's moving from their old email provider over to Outlook, and some other things that they're working on. So I have definitely been working on some key tasks and some key activities, and I think I'm being valuable to Sun Life. I know they definitely appreciate the work that I'm doing, and both the work that I'm doing, but also the way I approach the work in terms of the time it takes me to do the work and when I'm able to get the work done and that type of thing. So I definitely think I'm successful so far, at least in terms of the month of March. In this front, the question really becomes, and I've started to do a little bit more reaching out on this front as well, is what is this current role setting me up to do in the future? So I've reached out to some people at Sun Life. There's a program called the Rotational Leadership Development Program, where right after you graduate school, you spend 3 years working at Sun Life, and each year you're in a different business area. Within that business area, you're a full-time employee working in that area, doing exactly what you'd be doing if you would work full-time for the rest of your life in that business area. Good jobs, good positions, and a lot of learning going on. So I've been doing a lot of investigation and research as to the program. How do you get in? What does it look like? Why do people enjoy it? What do you do? All of those types of things I've been asking myself and looking for to really make sure I know where is this setting me up to go in the future? So that's definitely something there, and I have 1 month left. I'm continuing to be valuable, and at least I hope continuing to be valuable with what I'm doing at Sun Life. So I appreciate that, and I'm hoping to continue that up until the end of April. Now the final thing is the involvement, and there's a lot going on here. I'm just looking at my list. There's a lot going on in this front. So business TAing in the month of March is basically wrapping up. It's only about 12 weeks worth of classes. In April, we do have the final exam that needs to be written, proctored, and marked. Marking of the final exam is definitely a big task, but it's definitely a burden off my shoulders. Not that it's a burden, but a weight off of my shoulders, a better way to put it. Now that the labs finish up at the end of March, last week in April, so there's one lab in April, but for the most part, when March is done, now that March is done, that probably 85% or 80% is behind me, and that's good. It's another thing that I really enjoy doing, but a lot of these things, as I say, I'm doing a lot of these things, keeping very busy, but as a result, I don't have time for the smaller things, reading, exercise, and now that this is wrapped up, I'm having some more time for that. Now, there is another position available to do business TAing over the summer, and that's something that I find out in the end of April, early May. Not entirely sure the timing on that, but that's something I'll have figured out and finalized then if I'm offered a position, and if I am, what the requirements would be for that. As I said, I really do enjoy doing that, and it's definitely interesting and a great experience to be able to work with other students and help them and motivate them to see the course and understand the course and why it's relevant and how it's relevant. So it's definitely a good experience. And also the group of people that we're TAing with, that I'm TAing with, are a great group of people, and I really do enjoy TAing. It's definitely one of the greater involvements that I've chosen to involve myself with. The other thing is the emergency response team. That has basically wrapped up now that March is done. There's another couple of days worth of shifts, and I had one shift in the first week of April. It's since passed, but one shift left in the beginning of April. But end of March, we were having our wrap up, end of year celebration, all of those types of things beginning to plan and happen, because the year is done, right? Once we move into exams, I don't have exams, I'm on co-op, but all the students who are at school still have their exams, so that wraps up. But it's been a good year. I did apply. That was something that did happen in March, is the application deadline for the 2018-2019 year. I applied to be an executive member again. Really, it will depend on the executive position that I'm able to obtain. If I am able to obtain one, that would decide if I want to do that or be a general member. I don't want to do promotions again. I have nothing against promotions, but it's not really, I think, the best place for my skill set right now, and it's not what I find the most enjoyment out of. I would definitely be more interested in a logistics type of role, working towards the spreadsheets and finding allocation, or not allocation, sorry, the people's availabilities and planning out their availabilities, doing that scheduling, definitely a bit more of a math side to that and the optimizing of the schedules. But who knows, we'll see. The interviews for that haven't happened yet. So that's something that I'll know probably in May is when the interviews for that will happen. But that's definitely something else that I've been working on that's wrapping up, and I won't be doing over the summer. So at least for the next 4 months, there'll be some time available because that will be stepping back. And then the final thing that I had going on was my trip to Spain, representing Laurier as part of one of 4 members on the case team competing at the University of Navarra International Case Competition, which happened in Pamplona, Spain. I'm going to spend a few minutes here talking about that. It was a phenomenal experience, absolutely incredible. We won as well. I'll just lead with that. So there were 16 schools taking part. Laurier was one of the 16. On the first night, they divided us up into 4 groups of 4. Throughout the week, we had 3 different presentations. We had 2 3-hour cases and 1 24-hour case. We were given a score for our performance on each of those 3. Then at the end, the team of the 4, the team with the highest score from each of the 4 divisions moved on. So then there were 4 teams that moved on into the finals. So we were first place in our division going into that final 24-hour case. So we were sitting in a good spot there. We came second in the 24-hour case, which still had us first in our division just because of how the points fell. As a result, we moved on to the finals, and we competed against, in the finals, the University of British Columbia, the University of Alberta, and the National University of Singapore. So that was a phenomenal opportunity and a great experience. We worked with a lot of good companies and a lot of great cases during the week and met a lot of great people and had some faculty members from the University of Navarra as well as actual executives and representatives sorry, of the company on the judging panel. So that was definitely a great experience, fantastic opportunity, but it wasn't all work. We definitely did have some time built in to explore Spain and to talk with the other teams. Lots of incredibly friendly teams. There's a team from Queensland in Australia. There was a team from Dublin, Ireland. As I said, there was a couple Canadian teams. There were some American teams, Asia, as well as one team from the Netherlands, and of course the University of Navarra themselves had a team. So lots of great networking and meeting of great people, and also, as I said, some time for sightseeing and touring around, both in terms of Pamplona. We, our team of 4 plus our faculty advisor, we got into Pamplona a day early, one to deal with the jet lag, make sure we were well rested, but also to do a little bit of exploring. So we explored Pamplona on our first day. Then we had a couple days of cases. In the evenings, we went to see, we saw a castle on one day in the city of Olite. We had a nice dinner on the second day. The Wednesday was entirely sightseeing. They took us up about an hour north to a small town called San Sebastian. It's a town right by the water in Basque territory. Absolutely incredible scenery, both on the way to the city, but also in the city itself. We climbed up, or I climbed up a mountain, Mount Urgel. A great view from the top of the mountain. The rest of my team was shopping. They had some of the large department stores or just large boutique stores in the town, but I was more interested in walking around and exploring the city and doing some speaking with the locals. So I walked around, did some talking with some of the other teams, but that was a great opportunity to spend the day in San Sebastian. The Thursday was when we had our 24-hour case, so that went all Thursday into Friday, and then Friday morning at 9 a.m. we had our presentation. We were the first presentation slot. That went until about noon, all the presentations from our division. Then in the afternoon from about probably 1 or 2 p.m. until maybe 4 or 5 p.m. was when we had the finals. Then we went home or back to the hotel, a little bit of rest because did not get much sleep the night before. And then finally we had a gala in the evening. So that was a great opportunity, a great experience. We also were able to spend a day, not a day, maybe 12 hours in Madrid right before our flight left. So we explored the city, walked around, saw the sights, and we went to a farmer's market there. Absolutely incredible. I've never been to Europe. It was a phenomenal opportunity. The fact that we won was even better, the icing on top of that cake. But it was a great group of people that we were able to spend time with, both the 3 other people and the faculty advisor who came from Laurier, but also the rest of all the representatives and the volunteers from the University of Navarra. So that was just a phenomenal opportunity. That's everything I have written down on that note. It does mean that because this competition is over now, I will have a little bit more time, or a lot more time, really. I have even noticed that the last week in March and the first week or 2 of April is, wow, I for once don't have anything going on the weekends. I can relax, I can clean, I can get organized, I can go home and visit my parents, all of these things. So I have been trying to keep busy, but also just trying to enjoy, at least for right now, with a little bit of extra time that I do have. And then definitely once I start in April, or end of April, and once I start in May, back again in school, focusing on other projects. So it really is a matter of, this is behind me. Gained a lot from this opportunity, both in terms of the experiences, and the learning opportunities and all of those things that I was able to learn, but making sure that I'm continuing to look forward into the future. And that's why I have this list of resolutions, is to hold myself accountable. So that was a big involvement that really came to an end in March. It was a very successful end, but I need to make sure that I continue to be involved throughout the rest of the year. MLSB is something at softball that picks up in the summer, so looking to that, getting on a team and having a little bit of a break from classes and also meeting some new people is something that will be happening in May, but that's really it in terms of March. The biggest thing was going to Spain. We didn't have great luck with our flights. I will mention that. We were delayed about 3 hours on our flight into Spain, and then on our way back, delayed leaving Madrid. Then when we got to Frankfurt, we were delayed leaving Frankfurt. Landed in Montreal. We weren't delayed leaving Montreal, but we did have to run around to a couple of different gates. And once we were in the air from Montreal to Toronto, the Toronto Pearson Airport was backlogged, so it took us about a half hour worth of circling over the airport and before we were able to get a spot in the landing queue. And then once we did, we went into land. It turns out British Airways was ahead of us and they hadn't cleared the runway in time, or they were a little slow, so we ended up taking off again and doing another loop around. So it was a long trip back, probably 23 hours from the time we arrived in the Madrid airport to the time I finally got back to Waterloo. But as I said, a phenomenal experience. Really enjoyed going on it. I'm incredibly grateful to have been picked to represent Laurier. And as I said, it's even better that we were able to win. It's great for the university, great for us, but really great for the university. We also had a team, Laurier also had a team in Montreal that week at the McGill Management International Case Competition, I believe is what it was called. That team came second, so a great week for Laurier. Just phenomenal opportunities. But as I said, that's done, that's in the past, so it's a matter of making sure I continue to look forward and figure out what's next and keep staying involved and really continuing to make a difference. So with that in mind, that's the March update. Again, sorry these are a little late, but April will be done in about 2 weeks. I'll have the April update then. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.